Today, I'm finally going to be talking about collecting vinyl records. Now, a lot of what I'm going to say, you've probably already heard before. It's not going to be anything extraordinarily new, but I I do feel like the way in which I collect vinyl records is a little bit different than most people, so hopefully that will be interesting for you guys. But I started collecting vinyl records maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I actually started collecting records before I even had my first turntable, mostly because I love the artwork on these things. I mean, can you deny that the record jacket or album jacket, whatever you want to call it, looks so much better and more beautiful than a small little CD? I mean, come on. I mean, that's why people collect laser discs as well. They want to show off that artwork. They want to hold the physical copy in their hand. They want to read the liner notes. They want to just admire the art that, the music itself is art, but then you've also got the other layer of the artwork on the jacket, as I just mentioned, and you're not really getting that with CDs. So yeah, I bought a few records before I even had a record player, but when I first started actually listening to the records, I was just blown away. I mean, it's just such an immersive experience, the whole process of taking the record out, putting it on the turntable, cleaning it beforehand, all of that. And I know I said a lot of this you've probably already heard before, blah, blah, blah. I probably sound like a hipster, and I kind of am a hipster when it comes to vinyl records because I didn't grow up with vinyl records. I grew up in the CD cassette tape era in the 90s, so yeah, I don't know. It's something that I still love and found later in life, though. And, vinyl has made a resurgence, so you can find these things everywhere. But the first time I listened, like I said, it blew me away. The sound quality is not quite as good as, lossless audio or streaming from Spotify or any of that stuff, or CD necessarily, but, and it sounds cliche and you've heard it a million times, but vinyl records really do have a warmth to them. And there is really something to be said about the imperfections of the sound quality, all the pops and the hisses that really make the music come to life and almost have another dimension to it. And I know that might sound stupid to a lot of people because it's like, how does pops on a record on the music sound good? But I don't know, man. You got to experience it for yourself. A lot of this is kind of hard to explain unless you've experienced it for yourself. But I love it, man. And there are some genres such as jazz and classical music that sound incredible on vinyl record. A sound that you cannot replicate streaming on Spotify. And I know a lot of people may not be that into classical music or jazz or whatever. I really am. And I think if you give it a shot on vinyl, you might really find that you love it. It's a whole nother experience when you hear a saxophone on a vinyl record, which I will talk about some of my favorite jazz albums in a future video, so watch out for that. But that kind of brings me to one of the more unique ways in which I collect vinyl that might be a little different from the average collector, and that is I use vinyl kind of like people use Spotify. I go to half-price books, I go to record shops, and I go to the $2 bin, where everything is really cheap, and I blind buy a lot. I almost made a whole video just on blind buying, and I don't know, I still might in the future, but I figured I'd cover it a little bit here. So what I do is I just kind of look for, album covers, artwork that really inspires me or that looks really cool, no matter what genre it is, And if it's in the discount section for only like $1 or $2, at least you get some cool art if it doesn't sound very good. But I use that kind of like people do random playlists on Spotify. You might pull up like a chill vibes, playlist, or you know, an 80s era playlist, just to kind of learn some new bands and stuff like that. Well, that is how I use vinyl records, is that I just randomly buy records that I think look kind of cool and give them a shot. And that's how I like to discover new music. And like I said, if it ends up being really bad music, which happens a lot of the time, you still have something that looks pretty cool on the shelf. And I've found so many great records, which I'll talk about in later videos, through that process. And if you haven't really done much blind buying, do it, man. Vinyl records are cheaper than ever right now. Like I said, you can go to half price books. You can go to most record shops, have like a really cheap discounted section. I mean, you want to look at the quality. If it's really scratched up, you may not want to buy it, but most of them are still in decent quality. And yes, you're still going to get the pops and the hiss, but like I said, sometimes that actually adds to the experience and adds to almost the music quality to some extent. And again, I'm not saying it sounds better, objectively, than streaming or CD, but it has a very unique quality to it that I really enjoy. And in fact, most of my records here on the shelf were either blind buys or bought used. I actually rarely buy brand new records. I'm not really a guy to go out, and if there's a new record out from a new band, I'm not necessarily one to go pay full price for a brand new record. I kind of enjoy the older music, the stuff that's been out for a while, 70s, 80s, all that. Like I said, I'm really into jazz and classical music. And there's nothing wrong with buying brand new records, And I still collect for some bands. Like, I really love Tool, and I have a bunch of Tool records. But there is something really cool about collecting vinyl records as a way to explore new music. So, yeah. That's about it. That's about everything I have to say for this video. I'm sure as soon as I shut the camera off, I'll be flooded with things that I should have said. And I guess that's why I should outline these videos a little bit more detailed. But if you're new to vinyl record collecting, it's not expensive. I mean, it can be at first. There is like a little bit of a barrier to entry because you've got to buy the turntable and all of that stuff. And there's tons of videos on how to do that and reviews on turntables. I still don't have the best record player ever. It's still like the first one that I ever got, which is an Audio-Technica LP60, I believe, which does not have a counterweight. I don't know if I would recommend it. I would recommend upgrading if you're starting out to a still affordable but more sturdy and better for your records turntable, such as the LP 120 or something along those lines. You can actually get a lot of really good deals on record players that are going to be a lot better than what I've got. But this is still a pretty good starter, especially if you want to spend just under $100, at least for the record player itself. You still got to get a preamp and speakers and all that. But buying the records itself is the most fun process out of, like, it's more fun than collecting Blu-rays, honestly. And I collect, like I said, I collect vinyl records kind of by blind buying, which is something I don't do with Blu-rays. So it's a lot more fun to some extent than collecting movies for me. And I'm also going to try to do some videos where I go out hunting for records and I go to those places I mentioned before. And it's going to be really fun. I'm excited to do more vinyl record videos in the future. So thank you guys as always for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.